So hey there, thanks for joining us this week on Colorado Prep All Access. We're switching it up a little bit. This is Scott Horman. I'm Phil Santucci. We're switching things up just a bit this week and coming to you with some video content today out here at Arapahoe High School. We're watching the Warrior baseball team here behind us practice. They are prepping for their big Elite 8 game this weekend against Mountain Vista, an undefeated opponent. So a pretty big week of practice for these guys.
Yeah, it's the second time they've played Mountain Vista this year. Mountain Vista beat them, but it was a great game early on in the year.
Yeah.
Arapahoe made some early mistakes in the game, got behind. I think the game ended up 4-3, 5-4, something like that, a one-run game. Mountain Vista, 21-0. There's not a lot of teams that can do that.
No,
and
that's
what's really cool about this whole thing. I'm not sure I'd want to be 21-0 going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, everyone always talks about that, like when there's a good loss in a season, it always comes kind of right before the tournament. But now they're they're riding the undefeated wave all the way into the playoffs. So now if you lose, it was really cool to be undefeated, but it doesn't really mean anything.
It's like the Patriots a couple years
Exactly.
ago. The whole you're undefeated, and you lose in the Super Bowl. That last feeling is a loss.
Yeah.
But Coach Quintana over there at Mountain Vista, he will definitely have them ready.
Yeah,
we know Coach Dallahan's going to have them ready. We were here today. These guys are practicing their butts off. There was nothing. It was a very crisp in and out, a very crisp hitting your cutoffs, very crisp rundown
Yeah,
drills.
they were in a really nice practice here.
It was really good. So they're going to be prepared, and this is what you played in these games, and you know the nerves that happen early on in a game.
Yeah.
Especially in the first game of the playoffs. Throwing strikes is
Yeah,
important.
it's different.
Making plays is important. So this game could go either way.
Yep.
That's the 1 versus 8, and so. We know that Arapahoe has pitching also.
They sure do, yeah. And the one thing I do want to kind of check back in on is Coach Quintana. We did a great story with the Vista baseball team last week in the Prep Spotlight TV show, and his main message was, undefeated was awesome, and it was obviously really cool for the kids to experience it, but it wasn't, one of their goals at the beginning of the season. It wasn't something that they're going to hang their hat on. They were, one goal was to win the conference championship, which they easily did by being undefeated, of course. But he said the same thing. He's like, it doesn't mean anything at all, and the players had the same message from Vista.
Yeah, and Zach Patchke, the shortstop over there, he's a senior. I actually watched him graduate this morning.
Nice, that's cool.
They are very excited about bringing another championship to Mountain Vista. The principal over there had a great message about not just being okay with winning and getting complacent. He said sometimes teams and schools get complacent. The Cherry Creeks, the Mountain Vistas, the Regises, the Valors, they get complacent with winning. They think it's just supposed to happen.
Exactly.
It's very special to win a state championship at any sport, anytime, anywhere. So that's the message they're sending over there to Mountain Vista, and anything less than a state championship over there is just not going to be good enough.
Yep, I hear you there, and I guess we got to talk about the other Highlands Ranch school that kind of stunned at least the Colorado baseball world a little bit this weekend when Rock Canyon took down Cherry Creek in a kind of a crazy game. But that was really cool, obviously, for Garrett Duman, who we talked with earlier in the season, to go back to his old former team at Cherry Creek and take down the old Giant. I'm sure he didn't see that happening at the beginning of the year, and I'm sure neither of them really wanted to do it, but that's kind of what happened.
And here's the thing about that, and Rock Canyon had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They were the 3 seed going into that, and Monarch, for whatever reason, didn't throw their top guy to start the game, and Rock Canyon got on top of them and was able to hold on and win that game in extra innings. I think it went 12 innings.
Yeah, it was a long
so they beat Monarch in 12 innings, and then that momentum takes you into Creek, and you've literally got nothing to lose when you play Creek.
Nope.
And you know that. Cherry Creek's got a target on their back every single time they step on the field. Coach Johnson has a target. He is by far the premier coach in the state of Colorado, in high school.
No doubt.
So when you see Rock Canyon come out, I'm sure Coach Duman said to him, hey, you got nothing to lose here. Let's just go play loose and have fun.
Yep.
I sent him a text after the game. I said, hey, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
He sent me a picture of him and Coach Jay hugging.
That's awesome. That's what it's really all about.
That is really, for him, it was a very emotional day. It was Mother's Day. His mom was there. It was a great, it was a great day. So that's a shock for Cherry Creek not to be. And we really felt, and when I looked at the bracket, you and I talked about it last week, when I looked at the bracket, there was no way Cherry Creek wasn't moving on.
It was kind of a pencil in for us. But I mean, you said it right there. I got the call from my dad that they didn't win it, and I was just, I was like, whoa, wow, that's weird. It's Cherry Creek's always at the Elite 8, always at All City. It's like the second home field. We always called it over there. But hey, that's baseball. I think it just plays to the fact of what we've talked about all season is that there's talent all across the state. You know, there's talent in Highlands Ranch, there's talent in Denver, there's talent in Greeley. It's crazy. So it's like you said, you can't just expect to win every year and show up and it happen. You got to get those W's.
Well, and now Rock Canyon has the unfortunate task of going up against Pine Creek.
Yeah.
And we know what Pine Creek, we saw Pine Creek,
Sure
and they've
did.
already played them once this year.
Yep.
And so Pine Creek has pitching, they have hitting, and you know they really want to prove that Colorado Springs baseball is good baseball. So there's a whole nother aspect to that game. Rock Canyon wants revenge. Pine Creek wants to prove that they belong.
Yep.
You know, what do you think of Pine Creek?
You know, obviously Cornelio, their pitcher, is just a stud. The kid hit into Texas Christian University, and you know, we saw them play that same Rock Canyon team that's in the Elite Eight with them, and it just looked like a lot better of a team, to be quite honest with you. And I know they've kind of, you know, had a great year and coasted through, you know, the league down south, and not to take anything away from Colorado Springs, but obviously there's a little bit more depth of pitching talent and stuff like that here in Denver. But they've done great, and everything I've heard since the time that we saw them, which was kind of early in the year, you know, they've only gotten better and better each week. And I know Olson for them has had a huge year offensively and has a lot of power numbers, and I know you may have even gotten some news about those guys.
So Olson, from what I understand, you know, and this is all coming from the summer baseball world, but a couple people were talking, it looks like Olson may have separated his shoulder in the game last weekend, and that separated shoulder swinging a bat,
it's not easy.
It's not easy. It could pop out at any time. It could, you know, so I'm not sure what his status is, and that's 14 home runs left on the table.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You know, and so you kind of get that, okay, Rock Canyon, you know, we got a chance here, you know, and I'm sure they're feeling that if they've even heard the news, you know. We, like I said, I haven't called anybody and told anybody, but you know, it's just, you know, that is kind of shocking news for a guy of Olson's caliber not to be able to play. That's going to be tough for Pine Creek to overcome.
For sure. I mean, and, you know, every team that's gotten this far has had to deal with that in some capacity. Injuries happen in all sports.
Yes.
They happen there's never a good time for it, but there's times where early in the season you kind of bounce back from someone being down and hurt, but there's times where you're in the Elite Eight or you're in the Final Four, you're in the state championship game, and someone gets hurt, and you've got to kind of just figure it out. And that's when, you know, people talk about a team and all that good stuff. That's when it really rises to the crop, when you've got someone who maybe not have been someone you were counting on earlier in the year.
Somebody steps up
and starts having a big game, and that's what Pine Creek has to deal with this weekend. You never know.
Absolutely, and you know, the thing I love about this game is the fact that literally Rock Canyon was with them for 5 innings. They were with them for 5 innings. I mean, in the 6th inning, it blew open. You know, Pine Creek took care of it. And, you know, we were a little surprised because we didn't feel like Rock Canyon had that ability, but gosh almighty, they are. They're a scrappy group.
Yep.
And you know, we'll talk about, you know, the scrappiness of them, and you know, you kind of follow your coach. Gary Goodman played that way.
Yep.
That's how he played.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, when we talk about you know, that team, I think that they don't have anything to lose, so they're going to go out and they're going to play.
Yep.
You know, and then you got, you know, Garrett Newman, a first-year head coach at Rock Canyon. You've got a first-year coach at Cherokee Trail. Not a first-year coach, but a first-year coach there
at that location.
And Steve Eaton, who was he was at Rangeview, he was at Chaparral. He is a Hall of Fame coach in my book. He's taken them to the Elite Eight.
It's pretty crazy.
And so they're going to be taking on Rocky Mountain. And this is not your typical Rocky Mountain team. Yep. So, you know, when we talked to Scott Bullock, he was like, "We're just trying to get better," you know. But we also said during our broadcast that day, don't you know, Rocky Mountain's going to be there. They always are.
They've had that similar, not nearly as many probably losses as they had this year, but they've had stretches in the past where they rattled off, you know, 2 or 3 losses in a row, and everyone kind of started writing them off. But, you know, sure enough, come playoff time, they were right there and made their way all the way back to the state championship game. Kind of reminds me of how Creek used to be viewed in the state 10, 12 years ago, where, you know, it didn't even matter if they looked bad in league. They're going to be in the Final Four. Like, it's just, they turn it on in the playoffs, and I think Rocky Mountain does that same thing.
They had 7 losses this year.
Coaching goes a long way in the playoffs. We've talked about that.
Well,
I think Coach Bullock has a lot to do with it.
And being there, being in the playoffs. All those guys have been in the playoffs before.
Yep.
You know, I couldn't name, other than the catcher from Cherokee Trail, I can't name a kid on Cherokee Trail.
Right.
But Coach Eaton has them playing great baseball at the right time.
Yep.
And that's going to be a good game. And then you go to the last matchup of the day, and it's a pretty unknown but good Mountain Range team against a team that's pretty highly touted at Heritage with Riley Egloff and Eric McKnight and those guys.
Yeah.
So you look at that and you go, Okay, so that should be a win for Heritage, but Mountain Range has a pitcher who's thrown 45 innings and has 72 strikeouts.
And that's all you need to win in high school baseball is one guy who can just start mowing guys down. And actually, you know what, last year for the show, so it's the 16-17 school year, we did a feature with the Mountain Range baseball team.
I remember that. Sure.
A former famous CU Buff quarterback is one of their assistant coaches, is why we were out there. But you know, I remember their coach saying that they had a stud arm, and they got to the playoffs last year and just lost in the first round. But you know, this year's a little bit different, and it takes one guy to get a team into the Final Four. You never know.
So let's go through.
I'm picking Heritage for sure.
Okay, but let's go through. Let's go through that. Let's go the 1 and 8. You've got Heritage and you got Arapahoe and Mountain Vista playing. So you have Vista the number 1, Arapahoe the number 8. Who are you going to take? I know we're sitting on Arapahoe's field, so it's kind of hard, but
it's kind of weird. You got to take Vista. I mean, when a team's undefeated and 21-0, and we've seen them, they've passed the eye test as well. They're a good ball club. I think it's gonna be a great game though, because Arapahoe's got just as good of pitching in my opinion. So again, the pitching factor would come into play there. But I'm going to go Vista.
And I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to say Garrett DeClue. If he starts the game, which I as a coach, I would probably start Garrett in this game. If he starts, I think he will do a great job against Arapahoe. But I do believe Mountain Vista has 6 Division I players on their team.
It's a lot.
Let's just be honest. And really, another one could be a Division I player, but he's heading to I believe he's heading to Regis.
Nice.
So we'll do that. We got that one, and then you go down and you've got Pine Creek and Rock Canyon. What are you thinking?
I'm going to go Pine Creek. I mean, kudos to Rock Canyon for getting to where they did, but I think now they're going to run into too good of an arm in Cornelio. I'm assuming he's pitching.
Yeah, I would assume.
And, again, that was kind of the pitfall that Cherry Creek did not have this season, which I think kind of hurt them in that game a little bit, was they didn't have a stopper arm like Pine Creek does, and I'm taking that all day.
All right, I'm going to go Pine Creek also. I think that second game is going to be a little tougher for Pine Creek.
Yep.
And then we'll go to Heritage and Mountain Range. I think this is going to be one of the best games of the weekend. I really believe this. I believe this Mountain Range guy is a tremendous athlete, tremendous pitcher, but I also don't know if he's faced the competition.
Sure.
The Heritage faces day in and day out. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to take Heritage in a close game.
Cool, me too. Me too for sure there.
And then the toss-up game to me is this Cherokee Trail Rocky Mountain game.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I did not like you to see Cherokee Trail at all this year, but we saw Rocky Mountain, so just based on past pedigree and just knowing the situation and knowing the venue and just knowing the big spotlights on you, I'm going to go with Rocky Mountain.
And I'm going to go with Cherokee Trail and Coach Eaton. I just feel like he's got some guys over there that have bought in. Coach Dyer has built that program.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He didn't have to rebuild that program. He just took it and went.
Yep.
And I'm going to go with Cherokee Trail.
Cool.
So there's our first round matchups.
Should be pretty fun either way that you look at it in 5A. Have you looked at the 4A brackets, or do we want to go that far? I know we could talk for hours about all these brackets.
I will tell you, I'm going to take either Windsor and Valor. I think those two teams are going to match up in the finals. We'll talk a lot more about 4A next week, I think.
Yeah.
But I think we go Windsor or Valor are going to be those two teams, because I think they could compete in the 5A.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously Valor beat Heritage to end the season.
Yep.
But I think those two teams have enough pitching, have enough depth that they could compete at the 5A level. So I'll go with one of those two teams to win that.
Yeah, I think that's safe for sure. And Scott's right. We do have next week is when all the actual Final Four and state championship games will be happening. So we're going to do a full breakdown on the rest of the classifications. Tomorrow, Thursday, this will get posted tomorrow. So I guess today, the 1A baseball championship's going on down at All-Star Park.
That's
so that's kind of cool. At 11 a.m., it's Nucla and Kalishay, if that's how you pronounce it.
Holy cow, wait, Nucla and Kalishay, how do you even know that?
I looked online at the 1A bracket.
Can you tell me where either one of those schools are?
No, I cannot, which is usually the case with 1A, unfortunately.
1A and 2A, we talked about there in basketball.
But it's pretty cool that they're making the big trip to Denver and get to play at All-Star Park, which is a little mini Coors Field if anyone hasn't been there. So it's a cool venue too. So the baseball championship season starts Thursday, tomorrow officially.
Yeah, so that's awesome. It's been a great spring.
It has been.
It's been fun, talking with you about it all day long, every week, and spending time with you talking about it. But I'm actually looking forward to a little summer baseball too.
Yeah, summer baseball will be very welcomed, and the Colorado Prep Spotlight Show. Our last episode is the end of next week after baseball state championship, so it'll be a nice weekly break for us. But it's been great. We had the state championships in tennis last weekend that ended up really strong, and the weather somewhat cooperated, which was nice, which is always rare here in the spring. And then this week we've got girls lacrosse, we've got boys lacrosse going on. Actually, the state championships are Friday night at Sports Authority Field, which is cool.
Track.
Saturday we got track and field and boys swimming state championships going on at Air Force Academy. So,
very busy weekend. So where is the track and field at?
That's at Jeffco Stadium is where track and field is. We'll have 2 crew members, including myself, out there, and then I'm going to pack my bags and go down to the Springs. And actually, just wanted to see the Air Force swimming venue. I've heard it's pretty cool from Jason, our host, who works on the RMAC show a lot and works with the Air Force a lot.
And we know what swimming's like. I mean, we talked about it.
Oh, it's nuts.
It's nuts. Swimming
So
in Colorado, and there's some amazing athletes. We have Olympians. We've had, so it's a
lots
huge,
of future Olympians in track. We did some really cool stuff with the Colorado Mile Split. They're kind of the publication for track nationally. And we talked to their local guy, and there's 2 or 3 girls that are going to be in the track meet that are future Olympians, and he was almost saying like bona fide it's going to happen in 5-6 years down the line. So there's some good athletes out there, on all the different sport fields playing in the spring. So
if you get a chance to get out this weekend, Friday, they start at 10 a.m. for baseball. You'll see games at All City Stadium. 5A games at All City Stadium.
Metro State
and
University.
Metro State.
Yep.
You'll see 4A games at All-Star Park and Match Buff.
Cool.
And so you can get out there. They start at 10 in the morning. They finish, I think, at 5 at night. The winners bracket finishes up at 5 o'clock at night. Saturday we got a little weather coming in, so we'll see what happens there. But get out and see some baseball.
Absolutely. And we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, Scott's going to sit down with Zach Goodman, the catcher here at Arapahoe High School, to get a little take on what this week of practice is like leading up to the big game this weekend in the Elite Eight. So we'll be back right after this.
All right, we're back here on CO Prep All Access. Scott Horman. I'm here with catcher senior here at Arapahoe High School, Zach Goodman. Zach, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Hey, listen, this is a team that I don't think anybody at the beginning of the year thought you were going to be here. What got you here?
Well, I think that exact point got us here. We thought after last year we returned 6 of our starters. So we thought after a playoff run that we were going to get some notoriety a little bit before the season. They ranked us at 42nd before the season. And I think that was kind of a flame underneath us.
Yeah.
That's what our memo has been all this year, is prove them wrong.
Yeah.
We know how good we are, and that's why we're here.
Absolutely, and you proved that, by taking care of business on Saturday. You hosted here, basically just took care of business. It wasn't ever really in doubt for the weekend. You guys started off a little slow, gave away a couple games early on in the year. I remember talking to you a couple times. You were a little frustrated because you felt like you had the games, and then late in the games, an error here, an error there, a missed play, and all of a sudden you lose the game. When did that change? When did that turn around? What do you have can you pinpoint a time when that turned around?
I could. Exactly what you said is one of our first 4 games we played Heritage and Mountain Vista, 2 of the top teams in the state, and we lost to both of them on walk-offs. In both those games we had 5 errors in both of them. And we're right with these teams, and we're not playing our best ball at all. We felt like we needed to make a change up the middle, and we actually moved a kid who used to play third base, Hunter Jackson, to shortstop. It took him a few games to get settled in, but over the last 6 games, we haven't made an error, and it's really been awesome. A big difference for us.
And that's how you got to play good defense in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Talk about your pitching staff. You work with them a lot. You've got 3 really good pitchers. Most teams only have 1, maybe 2. To win a state championship, you got to have pitching. Talk about each one of them. Let's start with Garrett. Tell me a little bit about Garrett DeClue.
Garrett DeClue is the best pitcher mind I have ever caught. He knows what he's doing all the time up there. He's not going to throw you the same pitch twice, ever in a bat. That's why he's been so effective. He hasn't let up a run in something like 16, 17 innings. He's been our number 1 all year.
Yeah.
He mixes it up. He throws a fastball, slider, curveball, and changeup, and he throws his fastball and slider for a strike whenever he wants it. So that's what it is. Just we're throwing sliders in any count, and we can keep batters way off balance with him.
And that's what you're going to have to do against, obviously, Mountain Vista, a really good hitting team. talk a little bit about Drew Hayes going to Oklahoma. Hasn't thrown a lot lately, had a concussion. Should be able to throw during the playoffs, but talk a little bit about that.
And his stuff is the best on the team by far. He's got D1 level stuff. That's why he's going to Oklahoma. I think after the basketball season, his arm wasn't fully in shape yet for the season, and actually this concussion could be a blessing in disguise, because he came back in a scrimmage last week against Columbine, and he had 5+ more miles an hour on his fastball.
Awesome.
And it looked back to what the Drew Hayes I know is throwing.
Yeah,
and he's got good
He didn't even
stuff.
throw last weekend, did he?
No, he hasn't thrown in the last 3 weeks.
His arm will be fresh.
Exactly. We didn't throw Drew Hayes in our district.
Wow,
so.
that's pretty awesome. Now, who won you the district championship?
That's Tyler Banks, and he's a great story because he was a kid where he barely made the team his first couple of years, didn't really look like he was going to ever be a varsity starter, and then out of nowhere he worked really hard, and I mean he hit 87 a few times last week. He's committed to a D3, and he's really good. He throws his curveball is the best pitch in the program. And I mean, he's come into a lot of big situations this year. And Heritage came in with bases loaded, nobody out, in the sixth inning, a tie game, and he struck out the next 3 guys to get out of the jam.
I remember that. Myself and Phil did that game, and that was we were talking about that. That might have been a turning point for him to know, yes, I can do this. Mm-hmm. So you watched your brother here. He never made it to the Elite Eight. You come here, and it's got to be one of your big goals.
It was one of our goals at the start of the season. We could see ourselves doing this, and it's just awesome that we.
And when I say that, your brother played on some really good teams here, and they just they'd lose a game that they shouldn't have lost in the districts or something like that. He was a leader here. You've kind of taken that role on. You've got the C on your chest. I know that. What does it take to be a good leader, and what does it take to really define a team and turn it into what you've turned this team into?
Well, I think it's just knowing your guys. I know how all of them work, how they're going to respond to me yelling at them or calming them down. I think a lot of those aspects I've gained from just being a catcher and knowing that, because that's how you have to handle your pitcher. And I think being a catcher has really built me into a leader. It's a nice thing.
I've watched you 3 or 4 times out here this year, and I've really enjoyed watching you, the way you catch a game, the way you do things. Obviously, Webster University likes you. You're going to be heading out there. Talk a little bit about what went into that decision.
Well, I visited there. I mean, I visited a few schools, and I really liked the campus. It was small. Their stadium is unbelievable. Their track record, they had won 11 at the time, now 12 straight conference championships. They've been to 3 of the last 6 College World Series, and all those numbers, I mean, I like to win, as anyone else does, so that's intriguing. I saw I'll have an opportunity to catch really early there.
That's awesome.
So it's exciting stuff.
Well, good. Well, let's talk about this Saturday, this Friday. You've got Mountain Vista right off the bat, 21-0. You had a tough game with them earlier on. What is it going to take for you guys to beat Mountain Vista?
There's no doubt that Mountain Vista is the most talented team in the state. And I'm not going to stand up here and say, hey, we have more talent than them. But I know that we can play with them, and that's the beauty of baseball, is even if the worst team in the MLB plays the Yankees, they're going to have a chance that they're going to win 3 out of 10 games. Yeah. We're not scared. We're going to make them 21-0. We have the confidence that we're going to do that.
Yeah, so you're going to give them the first loss of the year. And,
yes, sir.
And all right, you heard it. Hey, we're here with Zach Goodman. Zach, thanks for being with us. We appreciate your time. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to seeing the Warriors do great things.
Thank you.
All right, we're back here on CO Prep All Access. That's a wrap here from Arapahoe High School. Phil, thanks for being with us. We're going to talk a lot more baseball and a lot more other championships next week right here on CO Prep All Access.
Yep, thanks, Scott. As always, another fun week. And tune in next week at coprepallaccess.com. We'll see you then.